There are many situations where you want to fight multiple copies of the same monster and almost as many ways to get those copies. You may want to fight more of a monster from a limited time event such as Crimbo, from an expensive or inaccessible zone such as the LT&T office or Witchess, or just get necessary items for your ascension. This video focuses on general purpose copies, not copying specific monsters such as those from the sea or the special challenge path Bugbear Invasion. You can never copy bosses or similarly unique monsters. Double check the wiki if you're not sure whether your desired monster is copyable. It's also important to note that items sold in the mall that enable copies are purchased whenever a person thinks they can use them to make more meat than they cost, so prices can rise to what may seem eye-watering levels. I'll share which past Mr. Store items of the month from the Legacy of Loathing Special Challenge Path help you make copies, since those are freely available to anyone in the path. Once you understand the many ways to make copies, you can pick what fits your needs, resources, and budget. You'll start by fighting the monster you want to copy. The easiest way to do this is encountering the monster in the wild. An example is getting glasses of goat milk from the dairy goat during the Mount McLarge Huge quest. You can start copying dairy goats once you encounter one in the goatlet. If that's not an option, you may be able to get started by wishing for the monster using a pocket wish, which can be purchased from the mall, or from the Mr. Store items Genie Bottle, Combat Lover's Locket, Chest Mimic DNA Bank, Clan VIP Lounge Fax Machine, Chateau Mantegna Painting, or using the skill Rain Man in the Heavy Rain Special Challenge Path for a monster you've researched, at least casually, in your monster manual. Note that the Genie Bottle and Chateau Mantegna are available in the Legacy of Loathing Special Challenge Path. Some techniques require copying the copies, so it helps to have a few different methods ready to fight your target monster if you forget or accidentally break the chain. You have more options if you have access to relevant Mr. Store items. I'll explain how to make copies of the monster you're fighting using items from the mall and then with Mr. Store items. Please prepare your copy methods before fighting the target monster so you can make the copies during the fight. It's also a good idea to remove automatic sources of damage such as effects, equipment, familiars, combat macros, etc. so the monster stays alive long enough to use all the copy methods you've prepared. Print screen buttons, 4D cameras, crappy cameras, and cloning kits can be purchased from the mall and used in combat to make a single copy of the monster, which is stored in inventory until you ascend or fight it. If you'd rather not buy from the mall, print screen buttons can be purchased with bacon from the Infinite Bacon Machine, 4D cameras can be crafted, and crappy cameras can be made in Rumpelstiltskin's workshop after using a Grimstone mask. An untradeable unfinished ice sculpture can be made with 3 each of snowberries and ice harvests, which can be purchased in the mall and used just like print screen buttons. The gift item Love Enamarang cannot be purchased in the mall, but can be traded with other players. The Love Enamarang is different from the other combat items because it creates a wandering copy of the monster instead of a copy in your inventory. Watch the video on delay if you're not familiar with the idea of wandering monsters. If you try to use another of any of these combat items before fighting a previously copied monster, or more times than allowed in a day, it will fail. Altogether, you can get 14 copies of a monster with these combat items per day. Spooky VHS tapes are a combat item that can be purchased in the mall and used to copy a monster to appear 7 turns later and instantly die, without using an adventure. Since the monster dies instantly, spooky VHS tapes don't work well for monsters where you need to perform an action in combat, such as using the molybdenum magnet in the junkyard. Since it is a free turn where meat drops are limited, the tapes don't work well for meat farming. Spooky VHS tapes are useful for item farming since you receive all non-conditional drops, similar to a yellow ray, and have a chance at conditional drops as well. Extrovermectin gives you the combat skill Be Gregarious, which when used creates 3 wandering copies of a monster for 2 spleen per cast. You can stretch these copies farther by using Waffles, but it's a little tricky. Both Extrovermectin and Waffles can be purchased from the mall. Once you've used Be Gregarious on your target monster, head to a zone with only one monster, such as the Dire Warren. If you encounter the zone's native monster, the Fluffy Bunny, using a Waffle will switch to the zone's temporarily native monster from Be Gregarious. You can use Waffles to get extra copies in this way until you've encountered all 3 Be Gregarious copies, at which point there's no monster to switch to. Note that if all your Be Gregarious copies are gone, you'll need to fight the monster again before casting the skill. Alternatively, watch for the final copy and cast Be Gregarious again to keep the chain going. You may get a lot of extra monster copies depending on how quickly the 3 wandering monsters appear. You have a base spleen size of 15, which can be expanded to 18 with mojo filters, so you can use up to 9 Extrovermectin in a day for 27 direct copies, plus copies from Waffles. Combining Extrovermectin and Waffles gives the most monster copies if you don't own relevant Mr. Store items. Mr. Store items give more powerful versions of the copy methods we've already discussed. The Spooky Putty Sheet and Rainbow Black Box can be used as combat items to create up to 5 copies per day individually, with 1 extra for a total of 6 if you own both. 1 copy each can be saved for later in your inventory. The Chess Mimic can use the combat skill Lay an Egg to create up to 11 copies per day depending on familiar experience. These copies are stored as mimic eggs in your inventory. Note that monsters pulled from the DNA bank also count against your 11 possible daily eggs. The Time Spinner can be used to immediately fight a recent monster up to 3 times per day. The Pocket Professor's combat skill Lecture on Relativity can be used to immediately copy a monster up to 17 times per day, depending on familiar weight and equipment. The Backup Camera's combat skill, Back Up to Your Last Enemy, can copy your previous monster up to 11 times per day. You can use either the Obtuse Angel's combat skill, Fire a Badly Romantic Arrow, or the Reanimated Reanimator's combat skill, Wink, to create up to 3 Wandering Monster copies per day. The Source Terminal combat skill Digitize creates wandering copies of a monster that appear less and less frequently for the rest of the day. Digitize can be cast up to 3 times per day, although a new cast removes the previous wandering monster. The wandering monsters from the Love and Emerang mentioned earlier, Obtuse Angel, Reanimated Reanimator, and Source Terminal are not made native to your current zone, so you cannot use Waffles to increase the number of copies. The Book of Facts combat skill Monster Habitats can be used 3 times per day for 5 wandering monster copies per cast, similar to Be Gregarious from Extrovermectin. You can use Waffles with Monster Habitats. The Powerful Gloves combat skill Replace Enemy and the Pocket Meteor Guy's combat skill Macrometeorite can each be cast up to 10 times per day to act like a waffle for extra monster copies. You can equip the Miniature Crystal Ball, wait until a Be Gregarious or Monster Habitats copy is predicted in the current zone, and then unequip and adventure in the zone until all the copies are gone. Then you can equip the Miniature Crystal Ball to get 1 extra copy per cast. Note that the Obtuse Angel, Source Terminal, Powerful Glove, and Miniature Crystal Ball are available in the Legacy of Loathing Special Challenge Path. One last special mention for Mr. Store items that only copy a zone's native monsters. The Patriotic Eagle's combat skill Fire a Red, White, and Blue Blast to encounter the same monster in your next 2 fights in the zone, and the 4th of May Cosplay Saber's combat skill Use the Force, which ends the current fight and ensures you encounter the same monster in your next 3 fights in the zone. These are great for council quests where you need a few more copies of a native monster. The Cosplay Saber is available in the Legacy of Loathing Special Challenge Path. I hope these tips help you fight more of the monsters you need.